Thank you. Thank you. Well, I want to thank Janie for inviting me here this morning. Congratulations on the end of another school year and another year of working in service of our children and of the future. Let's first congratulate Aaron on completion of your first year. And Daniel, the end of a 27-year-long career in education. We hope you enjoy your retirement. So congratulations to both of those. It's June, end of the school year. I want to ask you a question. We, in America, we recognize certain dates in history as being extremely, touchstones of history. And for example, July 4th is one. I want to ask you, June 6th, which was just a week and a half ago, and the significance of that date in American history, June 6th. Yeah, right. D-Day, the Allied invasion of France in the Second World War. And my father was actually a part of that. He landed on D+2, which was the afternoon of June 8th. He was a combat engineer. He built bridges. Him and his company built bridges. He was captain, had about 35 members under his command. Their goal or their job was that when the armies would reach a river, the infantry would go over and secure the far bank of the river, and then my father and his company would come in and lay across pontoon bridges so that armor, tanks, artillery could get across, secure the bridgehead, attack from there. Now, of course, they were up against the Germans, who were some pretty smart warriors, and they could look at the lay of the land. They had a pretty good idea most of the time where the Allies would try to cross rivers, so they had pre-sighted artillery waiting in a number of cases. And that's how my father came to be wounded. One afternoon, of the 35 men under his command, he lost 11 wounded, 5 killed, all in the space of about 5 minutes. And one of those who were wounded was him. I learned a lot about my father's service, not from him, but from when I would be sitting in a room when he was talking to his other war buddies. Essentially, that's how I learned a lot of my father's stories. And one of the things he would talk about were the African American troops, or how they call them the colored troops. Right? In the Second World War, the Army was very segregated. It was extremely segregated, and blacks were relegated to support units. So they'd be trucks, quartermaster supplies. And since, of course, my father's company was building bridges, they relied upon these supply companies for materiel. He talked a lot about the problems, the discipline problems they used to have with the African American troops. Drunk and disorderly, going AWOL. He even told the story of how he had to draw his weapon one time on one of the colored troops who were taking advantage of a young Belgian woman. So he would tell those kind of stories in conjunction with his other war stories. And as he approached the later years of his life and approached his death, whenever he would tell those stories, he added a little caveat, which I did not pick up on until years after his death. I didn't understand the meaning of it. But he would say, perhaps we wouldn't have had those discipline problems if we had just allowed them into the fight. So essentially what he was saying was that, if we hadn't relegated them to subservient roles, if we had them as part of the big mission, the defeat of the Nazi Empire, then perhaps we wouldn't have had those discipline problems. And I think for someone reaching their final years, that was a pretty deep insight. And like I said, I didn't pick up on it until years after his death, that the story had changed just slightly. And he had come to understand a little bit the importance of engagement to building partnership. And you think about it, how quickly, how much faster we might have defeated the Nazis if we had brought everybody into the fight. Now I bring that up because I saw the article last week in the paper, one of your brethren making the comment about parents. and the problem with poor performance or poor educational outcomes. You know? I say that in regards to what we're facing, or what my father faced 60 years ago. And in fact, perhaps if we bring these people into the fight, rather than have them serve in secondary and subservient role, we might see different behavior. And that is why I titled this little talk this morning that parent engagement is a lousy idea if it's just an idea.